the more farmers will, I guess, see that and go, wow, if I go down a regenerative pathway or a natural intelligence farming pathway, that can have great impacts for, I guess, reducing costs in my production, but then to also get a better price for my end product and add resiliency to my landscape to be resilient against climatic conditions, then I think that's when you're going to start to see a lot of farmers jump on board because it makes financial sense for them as well.
Welcome back to another episode of the Force in Nature podcast. Today, I'm very fortunate to have on Matthew Haggerty from Natural Intelligence Farming in Western Australia. You may be more familiar with Matthew's parents, who are quite big names in the regenerative game, but Matthew is out there building his own career and his own brand. Today's episode, we cover off what it was like growing up in Western Australia under Di and Ian, his stint in Sweden, and how he found the differences between his farming landscapes in Western Australia and Sweden. We also cover off his many ideas around how to translate what they're doing with natural intelligent farming to those farmers that are willing. And we also talk about the future of farming and how there's such a big opportunity around health and the way in which food is grown. So without further ado, let's get into it. How are you doing today, Matt?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Conan. Pleasure to be here. Jump on.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. Do you want to give the listeners a bit of a background on who you are and share a bit more about where you're from?
Yeah, so I'm a young farmer from Western Australia. Our property is about 3 hours northeast of Perth in the central wheat belt of WA. And yeah, we've got a mixed operation. So we've got broadacre cropping as well as 7,000 or so merinos that we have for both lamb meat and wool. And yeah, so that's under, I guess, what we call our natural intelligence farming principles. And it's a combined total of about 65,000 acres, which 30,000 acres of which is roughly the cropping, and then the rest is pastures, multi-species covers and whatnot that we have for the merino sheep too. I'm more known for being my parents' sons, so Ian and Haggarty's son, who have been well known in the regenerative space for quite some time now, being one of the, I guess, the early people jumping into it for Australia when they started going headfirst into it back in 2001 and transitioning from their industrial practices to a more regenerative way of going just by trial and error. And yeah, so I've grown up learning the natural intelligence farming principles my entire life. It's kind of been all I knew. And I thought it's what everyone did for many, many years until I kind of grew up and started chatting to mates at school. And I was like, oh, why do you do that? Like, we don't do that at home. Started then learning that, what the path mum and dad were going down was quite different to everyone else in our area. And I mean, I've just been obviously like mum and dad just loved every bit of it and loved the industry, and it makes total sense to me. So ever since I finished school, I've been trying to support in every way possible to help mum and dad on the farm, but also then grow natural intelligence farming as well. I also had post-school 12-month gap year in Sweden, where I went and worked on a large organic farm in Sweden. And yeah, so they were like 80% organic, and I think 20% of their land was under industrial practices as well. And they were mainly cropping, but they also had quite a large dairy too. So that was a massive eye-opening experience for me to just experience agriculture in another part of the world, completely different climate, having to combat things like snow and frost and stuff like that, which is pretty foreign for me in an agricultural sense. And yeah, but also to get a great insight into just different practices, especially organic. I didn't have much experience with that at all. So yeah, I really opened my eyes up to, I guess, the rest of the agricultural industry.
That's awesome. You really have had quite a bit of experience already compared to most people growing up in this space. A lot of people are only just getting into it now. What made you want to take the jump to go over to Sweden and have a look at doing it in a different way?
It helped out that I had some close family friends who lived over there, and they had always said for years, if you ever get the chance, come live over here with us, we'd love to have you. And I kind of thought that's a brilliant idea. I mean, why not? Well, I thought whilst I was young, I didn't have much holding me back here in Perth. I didn't have mortgages or anything to pay off. I was like, brilliant, I'm going to take my chance and jump over there for a year and give it a crack. And that was kind of my initial thoughts. And then as I was kind of making plans to get over there, that's when I found out they were organic. And I was like, this is going to be brilliant. Be able to learn more about, I guess, how organic practices are done at a scalable size. And it kind of just, all the ducks lined up really for me. And it became an awesome experience, one that I'll cherish forever. And yeah, I would have loved to have stayed for a bit longer and potentially tried other different things as well. Maybe try working on some other farms and just experience a bit more. But I think Dad was hoping for me to get back to the farm. So I came back home and I've been loving every bit coming home as well.
That's awesome. I guess what was the biggest challenge at doing organics at that scale in Sweden?
I mean, I think one of the biggest reasons for organics over there is they get the subsidies for it. So I think that's a big calling factor for farmers to get into organic. Me personally, I think one of the challenges I found was just the amount of tillage required for the organic at scale to work. That was quite challenging for me personally, because obviously I had grown up my entire life where it was like no till whatsoever. And so to go over there and to till a single field, multiple times in a season, where they'd go through and they would moldboard it up, and then they would, throw the harrow over them, sometimes 6-7 times just to even it out perfectly, get all the lumps out and things like that. And then they'd be rolling it, seeding it all in one season. Just kind of was big eye opener for me, blew my mind. And yeah, so that was quite a personal challenge for me to witness that. And just the slowly degrading that soil structure and that soil health, challenged me quite a bit. And it was working for them. I mean, they were making returns off it, especially with the subsidies. So the subsidies definitely do help out over there. But yeah, I could see, I guess, that it wasn't going to last forever. One thing that really shook me to the bone a bit, I learnt over there, is they were losing roughly a centimetre of topsoil a year, and that whole region was, just from obviously the amount of tillage they use across Europe, and then obviously the wind blowing it away. And once, they were saying, back when they really got into agriculture, 100 or so years ago, they had over about 1.5 meters worth of topsoil as an ancient lake bed. So it was just this beautiful, fertile soil that they were working with, just, like chocolate, unreal. And when I was there, the thing they had maybe just over a foot worth of topsoil left, and then underneath it was just pure blue clay. And so for me, I was a little bit worried about that. I was like, shit, if you're losing a centimetre of topsoil a year, that kind of looks like you got 25, 30 years up your sleeve. But that didn't seem to be much in the way of, I guess, mitigating that at the time. They would do like grass fields that would cut for silage, that they would leave in grass for maybe 4 or 5 years in a row. So that would stop the erosion and maintain its level for that time, which was good. But then obviously after it got pulled out of that rotation and then into crop for 5 years in a row, you'd start to lose topsoil. So that was pretty scary for me to see. But yeah, massive eye-opening experience, that's for sure.
Yeah, that'd be very eye-opening, especially if you know how much they've already lost. It's almost trying to figure out why they haven't put 2 and 2 together, that something needs to change to stop that. Even with just the physical costs around diesel to do that many passes in a season would be... Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I asked my boss about it one day, because that was my job. Coming from Australia, I was used to working on big tractors and big machinery, so I was driving all the larger equipment over there. And so I was on the John Deere 9RX driving I think it was a 40-foot harrow, and I was burning a good 100 to 110 litres an hour. And so highly costly to be able to having to do sometimes 4 passes with the harrow on the field to level it out nicely after it's been moldboarded. And in Sweden, this is back in 2022 that I did this. So it was right when the Russia-Ukraine war kicked off as well. And Sweden are known for being having high taxes. So I think their fuel in Aussie dollars was going for like a bit over $3 a litre.
Ooh. Jeez.
So pricey fuel. I think farmers got a bit of a reduction on it. I think they've got they got ag fuel over there, so it's slightly cheaper. But I mean, say if it was $2.70. It's still pricey, very, very pricey. So yeah, I had many conversations with my boss and things like that, because he was aware that we were doing different practices back home, and so we had some brilliant conversations around it. But I mean, it's just a case that's pretty similar, I think, for a lot of farmers around the world, where it's, your grandfather did it, your father's done it, you've done it, universities taught you that this is best practice agriculture. It's what your entire country does. It's a pretty scary thing to just say, not screw, but I'm going to separate from 98% of the farmers out there and go completely, do something completely different. Yeah, it's pretty scary, especially when you've got a multi-generational farm on the cards there. You don't want to be the generation that took a big risk and it didn't work out. So I completely understand why they're pretty hesitant towards it. But yeah, tough situation, I think, for some farmers over there.
Absolutely. So if we compare that to, I guess, your situation that you've grown up with, you had unique challenges on your farm system. We were talking just before about the rainfall. But what else is your challenge with your family's farm?
I come up across many challenges throughout the year, especially when just trial and error with learning and trying to evolve our practices. Rainfall, honestly, in the last few years, I think is just the biggest challenge. It's becoming an increasing challenge, I think, for the entire wheat belt of WA. We're sitting here in, towards the end of May, and we've had 30 mil of rainfall for the year, hoping that some's going to come in June. But for us, it's a matter of just add water. And we've been doing our natural intelligence farming practices for many years now. We've got a pretty good system now that we've done, I guess, pretty much the same system in the last 7-8 years, just making little tweaks here and there, a few little different trials. But as a whole, yeah, we've really fine-tuned it over the last decade. And so for us, it's just add water, and it's going to work. So definitely combating with the dry, arid landscape that we have is really tricky. Another big challenge for us, well, not really a challenge, but something we've had to work on, is obviously taking on new land in the past. I mean, I kind of see it's quite exciting, but it definitely can be challenging when you take on a property that, can be quite degraded in ways with, lots of tillage and high chemical use and artificial fertilizers, with not much topsoil left at all, and 0% organic matter. So trying to jump onto properties and you're really having to regenerate it from ground zero definitely doesn't come easy, and it's going to take many, many years to really start to build up some organic matter and build some topsoil as the years go on, which we've been having brilliant results with. And you look at the comparisons, say 3 years on, I mean, even we've had properties really rejuvenate themselves after 1 year, which has just been so rewarding to be able to see. But to look back and see where we've started on some of those properties to where we are now is brilliant, but doesn't mean to say it doesn't come with some challenges. You get high weed burdens, hence why they use more and more rates of chemical over the decades. So trying to combat that in with our system, you have a couple of little challenges in the first couple of years, but the more we get that soil system functioning properly, build that soil health, it all starts to work, and everything starts to thrive.
That would be massively rewarding. Can you tell the listeners a bit more about the principles behind natural intelligence farming?
Yeah, so I mean, we could go into it quite deeply, but in a nutshell, just trying to integrate nature's intuitive wisdom. I mean, our kind of definition is integrating nature's intuitive wisdom to produce premium food, fibre and beverage, because obviously that's our end result as farmers. We are food and fibre producers for the planet. So that's our end goal, is trying to produce the highest, best quality product to feed the world, to keep our planet healthy. So for us, the way we've gone about it is, instead of using what has been best practice science over the last many, many years, is kind of tap into the intuitive wisdom of our landscape, really take a step back. Instead of saying, I know best, I need to add these rates, I need to get this, my stock soil nitrogen levels to this level. I need to get my phosphorus levels to this, whatever it may be. Taking a step back and saying, hang on, what is the landscape asking of us? The sheep become a massive part of that as well. The sheep are a brilliant way to be able to, once we've worked with them for, the last 25 years now, we've been able to get their gut health to a certain extent where they are able to integrate and graze amongst the fields like they naturally would many, many years ago. And you watch their grazing patterns, and that is a big teller of how your landscape is functioning as well. So just paying attention to everything, and just on an energetical level, just also trying to train yourself as a person to tap into your own intuitive wisdom as well. Because us humans, I mean, we're very connected to our landscape. It's like our First Nations people, we're so intuitively connected to their landscape that they'll be able to feel and sense, I guess, the energetical level of the land. I mean, it's hence why you see for Australia, Indigenous Australians be able to sense what was about to happen before it happens, or sense that there's been a passing in another tribe thousands of kilometres away, and they'd start walking to go mourn the passing of someone and whatnot. So, and I think over the last couple 100 years, the Western world have really lost sense of that connection to country. So really just trying to connect back to that, see what our landscapers are wanting from us, or how we can just support it on its journey to function properly, whilst also trying to produce quality food. Long story short, natural intelligence farming and where we're trying to go with it, and it's highly rewarding. And from my point of view, I think it really simplifies farming in a nutshell, and it takes a lot of sometimes stress and worry off the farmer's back, because honestly, a lot of the time you just let the landscape do the work for you instead of trying to make these big calls yourself. You just nature knows what it is doing. The more we can step back and take our predetermined thoughts away from it, nature's been around for billions of years, and it's the most innovative technology this planet's got, really. So the more we can step back and use the wisdom it's developed over billions of years, the better. So the more we can tap into that, I think the better our results will be, which is what we've seen.
Yeah, I love that you brought up that Indigenous knowledge as well. I think that's something that has been lost. And as you say, a lot of farmers are really intuitive about their land, but it's almost like they don't trust their gut anymore. And it's like we've been trained not to do that and just listen to outside people, even though we're on it every day and we see what the interactions are. So I love that you brought that up. How do you think we can teach farmers to actually start trusting their gut a bit more about what they're seeing and feeling on their landscapes?
I think just to start off with, I'd say it's not about going to all the farmers around the world and saying, you need to do this, this, and this, and this is how you can do similar practices to what we do, or manage your landscape better, or whatever it may be. What we found is, the farmers will seek people out when they're ready. If they're not ready personally to be able to undertake that step, then you're going to be going up against a brick wall trying to get them to transition. I mean, the farmer's got to be ready themselves, and that we find they will seek you out saying, hey, been having these thoughts for many, many years. We see what you guys do. I think it could be really beneficial. And that's when they're open and ready for themselves, because I think the first step is for a farmer to actually work on themselves personally, because we're humans at the end of the day. None of us are perfect. We've all got our own issues we're dealing with. So the first step is you got to get yourself right. And then once you get your personal self right, then you can start having a positive impact on your landscape. Because if you're dealing with a lot of negative things personally, that can have a negative impact energetically onto your landscape. So that's definitely be the first step. And I'm not here to say this is what everyone needs to do. It's more just this is what we do. And if someone feels like that's something that they are wanting to get involved with, then that's when we go, okay, we can, how can we support each other to help you, make that change of process?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And Nicole Masters says you've got to meet the person where they're at and walk beside them, because everyone's at different phases in their farming journey and what they actually want to achieve. So like you say, if you work on yourself first, it just kind of opens up the blinders a little bit to see what is possible, because you can see the change in yourself. So then it's like, how do I start seeing my landscape a bit differently now? Because I've got almost a new set of eyes for the world.
100%. And at no point do we ever master it 100%. I mean, mum and dad have been down this path for 25 years and we still got things to deal with. But hey, that's life. It's always a learning process and you're always working to improve yourself. But yeah, as long as you still try and take one foot and put one foot in front of the other, you're on a right track.
Do your parents have almost like a failures are seen as growth rather than a negative thing within the farm system? Yeah,
very much so. I mean, it's pretty common around no matter what industry or business you're in, don't take failure as failure. Failure is just, learning opportunity. So 100%. And we're always trying different things all the time. How can we, because we're not perfect either. We're always trying to improve what we do year on, year out. And so, always trying to do different trials. Let's do this differently. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And we also, I mean, there's obviously at the end of the day, it's also a business that you're running as well with a farm. So you got to do it appropriately. You're not going to go put on and do a trial, but if the trial didn't work out, it's going to completely bankrupt your business. Kind of, Dad has a famous saying, put a bob each way. Kind of stick with what you're doing, but if we want to try a different way of, in the cropping program, it may be want to trial something. We'll take half that paddock, or we'll do 200 hectare trial. I mean, for us, when we're doing 11,000 hectares of crop, we'll do a 200 hectare trial and see how it works. It might be, it might not work. It might be a complete failure, but we go, okay. But even amongst that failure, there might be a few things we go, okay, that actually worked better. As a whole, it didn't work out, but we can take our learnings from that, tweak it. We'll go again next year. We'll have another trial. And because it didn't work out, hasn't had a negative impact on the business, but you're continuously learning.
Yeah. And I think as long as you are happy to continuously learn, you'll see it as that way. And I guess that comes back to that part where you've worked on yourself in the first instance to be able to view, I guess, those failures as learning opportunities. In terms of natural intelligence farming, you've taken on a bit of an education or an advocacy role. How have you found that, or what made you want to step into that?
I think my entire life, I've never been scared of camera. That's for sure. Mum and Dad always tell stories of me always jumping on a microphone when I was a kid and things like that. So getting on a microphone or in front of a camera, never been scared of, or in front of a crowd. I find it gives me it energizes me a little. Sometimes it can be a little bit daunting, especially I remember when I was going up for my first public talk, that Nutrisoil's Wormfest. And I remember standing back, I was like, oh, obviously my first time jumping up in front of 170, 200 people, I think there might have been. A bit daunting, but full of energy at the same time. And the energy boost it gave me post it. I loved it. So it's definitely something I've always been interested in. And I mean, my entire life, my childhood, I'd spend every single, summer vacation. Me and Mum and Dad would do a trip over to the east and we're always visiting farmers. Mum and Dad were learning off those farmers of different things that they were trying, so we could take back home and maybe apply some of those practices to what we were doing. And so I've always been surrounded by asking questions, learning, and then since I was maybe 5 years old, Mum and Dad have been public speaking themselves, teaching other farmers about what we've been up to. So it's always seemed the norm for me. And for me, I thought, if I wanted to step in and help Mum and Dad with what they're doing and educating others on natural intelligence farming, as well as, working on the farm, that's a part of it. I think, my next step in the role is just be able to take that, take the baton and keep running forward with the public speaking side. And I think, the more people I can educate on what we do, if it can help them in their situation, then I'll go for it. And with the social media side, that's just the new way of spreading awareness these days. It's the modern world. So as much as sometimes people could, give you a hard time for it, going, oh, what are you doing, out there telling everyone this and making the videos, especially in Australia, we very much have a tall poppy syndrome. Everyone's kind of like we're very humble in a way. People like stay in your lane. Like, why do you want to go out there and kind of think I know sometimes they say it's as if you're better than everyone, but it's just people out there trying to give it a crack, have a crack at life. So, and that's just the modern way that we get our story out there these days, is through social media. And you can have an impact or get your story out there to so many people so easily. So if that has an impact on even one person, I mean, why wouldn't you do it? So it's kind of just been a smooth process for me. I've always been interested. I've enjoyed making videos and putting things out there, and I've really loved it so far, and have tried different things out, from doing my own personal TikTok videos back when I was like 17 and things like that, and to now really working on the natural intelligence farming brand, trying to push that with those social media accounts. It's been coming along really well. I've been having really good feedback from it. So, but it's definitely a work in progress.
Yeah, well, it's always kind of a work in progress with social media, isn't it? Because the goalposts sort of shift with all the algorithms. But I think it's one of the biggest opportunities for farmers is to actually build almost a personal brand around themselves and show the world what they're doing on their farm and why their products matter, or how they actually create food. Because a lot of people don't actually have that connection anymore.
100%. And for me, I think the biggest thing I have motivation to share our story to is for the general public. I mean, Mum and Dad have been educating farmers about what we do for, 18 years now, which has been brilliant, and still needed to continuously educate farmers on different ways of practice. However, I think it's the general public that is where I have the most motivation to kind of share our story, because at the end of the day, they're the one with the buying power. If there is not demand for a regenerative product or a natural intelligence farming product, then, there's only a certain extent that it can go for. So the more you be able to educate the consumers on the benefits of what we do, the benefits of the produce that it creates, then the more they start going, increasing their demand for it. Okay, where can I find it? Then it just becomes a real positive circle. You start building, and starts building like a snowball, and that's when you can start to have change amongst an industry that can have a lot of positive impacts, just not only for farmers but also for the health of our population.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if you have your own brand, or you're wanting to build your own brand as a farm, there's literally, like, the first video is going to be the scariest, and then it's just figuring out what works and what the actual public want, and people want to connect with where their food comes from.
Exactly, 100%. And I mean, what I found, you're going to get some negative comments at times, people calling you a bloody idiot, but I mean, just got to not let it bother you. People are going to say what they're going to say. As long as you know personally that you're on the right track, you're doing what you think is best, then I mean, that's all you can do. I mean, and not to let other people's opinions affect you either, because no one knows the situation you're in better than yourself. So why are you going to let some random Joe blog on the internet, affect you as a person? They don't know your situation. So, you wouldn't take it on too heavy. So, it's been brilliant. And personal brand wise, the way people, I guess I found people really positively respond to people being authentic and putting their personal brand out there online. Building a personal brand alongside, I guess, a business brand is probably one of the best ways to build any business in the modern era, because people are more attracted to following someone's personal, authentic story, the behind the scenes and whatnot, more than a brand going, we're great, this is our product, buy our product type thing. But when people start to really feel like they know the person behind that brand, that's when you can really start gaining a large following. And I'm definitely not perfect on it either. I've got a lot of improvement on doing that, because like I said, it can be daunting too, because you've got to put yourself out there, kind of put yourself on the edge of the cliff and say to the world, here I am. But the benefits will definitely outweigh the negatives.
Totally. And I think with anyone who's commenting stuff on the internet and it's bad, they're never really either doing anything for themselves. And it's like, they're the guys up in the cheap seats. They're not the people down in the arena actually putting on the show. So you just got to separate that.
Definitely. I've more found if someone's got the time and energy amongst their day to be able to go onto the internet and write something negatively about someone, it's a bigger reflection of them, who they are as a person, than what you're doing. I feel bad for them sometimes. I'm like, I couldn't picture being in the mindset where, I mean, of course you see things online that you disagree with daily. I mean, you don't agree with everyone. So, but to look at something that you disagree with and then to respond negatively to that. I mean, I don't really understand the thought process to
Yeah,
it. So
it's a bad use of your energy.
Yeah, exactly. For someone to be able to be in that stage of life where for them to, I guess, feel better about their day, they need to respond to something about that, then yeah, bigger reflection of them than yourself.
So with natural intelligence farming, where do you see yourself trying to take it if you've got that freedom to do it?
Yeah, so for me, where I kind of see the future of where we're trying to go, I mean, for many, many years, mum and dad have been working on expanding, trialing our practices in different climatic areas, different soil types, things like that, really trying to, I guess, improve our practices for many, many years. But also now that once we've got to a scale, we're able to prove that these practices are possible at scale and also in a really dry, brittle environment. So really kind of, got the proof in the pudding of what we've done. And now, I mean, I think our next step to, I guess, having a larger impact is not trying to, get up more, scale the farm anymore, is to, one, educate other farmers to become a natural intelligence farmer or producer, but then also to educate consumers and start getting the product out there as best as we can. Start bringing more reward back to the farmers because, farmers are in a pretty tricky situation at the moment. One of the only industries in the world where we're a price taker on both ends, and then you've got to deal with whatever the climate throws at you. It's a very difficult industry to be in. And I've been telling the story where, in the last 10 or so years, 10 years ago, you would have bought a harvester for roughly $500,000 and you would sell your wheat in the industrialized commodity system for $300, roughly to $350 a ton. Now you would buy a brand new header for close to $2 million and you would sell your wheat for $300 to $400 a ton. So it's becoming increasingly more difficult to make a profit and make a living off farming, and hence why you're seeing more farmers get out and farmers are having to keep scaling to stay alive, really, and also having to push their land harder and harder every single year. In the industrialized system, they're learning how to, I guess, get the most out of land with artificial fertilizers and things like that to get the best yield and whatnot, just so they can stay afloat. So, it's a bloody tough industry out there. So the more that I can try and market the produce, educate the consumers, and build demand out there for this type of product, the more farmers will, I guess, see that and go, wow, if I go down a regenerative pathway or a natural intelligence farming pathway, that can have great impacts for, I guess, reducing costs in my production, but then to also get a better price for my end product and add resiliency to my landscape to be resilient against climatic conditions. Then I think that's when you're going to start to see a lot of farmers jump on board because it makes financial sense for them as well. So, I think the beauty with what we do, financially, it works really well without getting the reward for your product. But if we can get the reward for the product as well, you're going to see farmers start doing well again for once, which would be a nice change.
Yeah, absolutely. I think cropping farming particularly is probably one of the hardest forms of farming in terms of returns, just because you are so weather dependent, particularly in a dryland sense. So it'd be nice to see a point where all farmers actually getting returns for the hard work they're doing and the quality food that they're producing, and also all the ecosystem processes that they're doing if they are farming in that way that is regenerating things.
Yeah, no, exactly. So at the end of the day, food should be our medicine instead of spending lots of money on medicine from a pharmacy. If you consume brilliant, nutrient-dense and diverse produce that's being grown in a natural environment, then you're going to be able to reduce the cost you spend on everything else on the other end of the spectrum. So the more we can do that, the more it's going to have a great impact on the health of our population, which I think anyone wants, especially with the huge increases in chronic diseases and cancers, and you can go down that rabbit hole quite deeply, but it's just, it's getting very scary for our population. So I think something definitely needs to change, and it all starts with us as farmers, and, we're at the start of the food chain. So the better we can improve our practices to create a better quality product, the greater outcomes it will have for us as a population.
I absolutely agree on that. So with that in mind, how do you see the next generation of farmers shaping the future of like our food and land stewardship?
Yeah, I mean, kind of what I've just been touching on. I think there's so much potential in the agricultural industry. There can be a lot of doom and gloom sometimes about it. People are like, where's this going to go with increasing regulations and whatnot? But I mean, from being in the regenerative space for many years, there's so much potential of where we can go. And what I've noticed is in the regen space is becoming adding a lot more excitement for younger generations to get involved too. Most people don't really want to get into a system where they're having to deal with a lot of artificial fertilizers and chemicals and things like that. But if they can go out there and always try and preserve life as best as they can, yeah, it's bringing a lot more people into the industry, which is adding a lot more excitement, a lot more innovation, and a lot more outside ideas. So yeah, I guess for the future of the farming industry, definitely, I think is great. The more we can share our knowledge to support farmers, because I'm not trying to say that if you don't do regen farming that you're wrong. That's not the case at all. It's just that there is other ways about it, and if people are struggling, which there seems to be a few farmers out there that are struggling, that selling out doesn't have to be your answer. That there is other ways that we can go about it, so you can continue the career that you love and have a great return from that, has a huge longevity towards it, and you won't have to be concerned about the increasing regulations that governments seem to be putting on farmers around the world.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's pretty well summed up. So if the listeners want to connect and follow along with yourself or the natural intelligence farming, what is their best way to keep in touch?
You can definitely visit our website, which is naturalintelligencefarming.com. We were also across Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. We've got the Natural Intelligence Farming accounts across there, and planning on making a TikTok account for Natural Intelligence Farming as well. I need to jump on that. That's been on my to-do list, but been pretty run down with seeding the last couple of months. But that is next on my agenda. So hopefully soon on TikTok, you'll be able to find us there. And across our website, you will be able to see wherever we're doing mum and dad are doing a public speaking presentation anytime soon, and myself as well. So yeah, usually I'll keep that up to date pretty well. So stay in the loop through there. And yeah, if anyone has been interested to learn more, I mean, follow across social, YouTube as well. If you search up Ian and Haggerty or Natural Intelligence Farming, there is plenty of videos where people have come out and shared our story, which has been really great to have, and multiple podcasts as well. On the Natural Intelligence Farming website, there is a resources page where it's got links to plenty of different YouTube videos, podcasts that we've been on, and whatnot. So if anyone's interested in learning more, there's heaps out there. So just jump in and get involved, and yeah, send us a message if anyone's got any further questions.
Awesome. Oh, I'll put those links below so anyone's listening, they can just click straight down and through. But in terms of wrapping up, I normally do a couple of quick-fire questions at the end here for all my guests. And the first one is, what's one thing that you would change about the agricultural industry if you had a bit of a magic wand?
Great question. I would think, climatic conditions would be nice, but but going further about what we could probably possibly control ourselves, I would say I would like to have good conversations with people amongst the government about how many, I guess, there seems to be treating farmers with kind of like a stick instead of luring them with a carrot, which is just making farmers have already got it so tough, and then there's just increasing things just being compiled on top of them, saying everyone kind of, there might be a regulation that come out and just gets flowed down the chain until it gets to the farmer. We can't flow that down to the next one on down the chain. Farmers just got to cop it at the end of the day. And I feel like just beating with a stick with regulations is not the way to incentivize change amongst farmers. I think, much greater, I guess, pickup rate of people changing their practices with the carrot approach, incentivizing them with positivity of, reduce interest rates or reduce tax or whatever it might be. However, you can get creative about trying to support farmers instead of just saying, if you don't do this, then, you can't sell your product. Or if you don't do this, then whatever it might be. Yeah, there seems to be more and more difficulties being adding on to farmers than making our life easier. So if I could change that in a way, that would be brilliant if I had a magic wand.
I reckon that's totally spot on, because nowhere in the world is using the stick approach to farmers working, but it doesn't seem like anyone's putting two and two together. As soon as you incentivize, you'll get change so quickly. It's not even funny.
My personal opinion, I feel like farmers should get a tax cut. I mean, the people out there in the regional remote communities, doing it tough. Those remote communities are dying, becoming less and less people, because it's becoming less of an attractive industry for people to be in. So we should reward the people who are taking the stance to be out there, to do the 16 hours a day, 17, 18 hours a day, to work with the livestock, not have Christmas days off and things like that, to try and do. We're all trying to do the best that we can to produce for our planet and for the people living in the city. So I think we should be able to support them instead. I mean, here in Australia, we've now just had a proposed tax to be put on farmers, to be taxed so they can have essential services such as fire brigades and ambulance services out there. And it's like, even though most farmers are a volunteer ambulance or a volunteer fire brigade anyways, if anything, they should get extra money to have those services and pay them to be a volunteer fire or ambo instead of being taxed on it. That's just, a bit ridiculous on my behalf.
Yeah, that is mind-blowing. And you think that the fact that farmers produce food allows people to not have to worry about that in the cities or townships, because their food is taken out. They can just go to the supermarket. If you make it hard for farmers to live and be profitable, there's going to be no farms and food gets more expensive, and then all the other social issues that come with that when people can't afford food.
Exactly. And I think as farming has become more and more industrialized, more and more commoditized over the years, and farms are just scaled to become so big, they've scaled because it's become harder to make profit off it. But, back when mum and dad were kids, everyone, at least in WA, everyone knew a farmer in the city. Everyone, their cousin was a farmer, their uncle or their brother, someone knew a farmer, and they had that connection to country a little bit more. They understood, where these days you talk to people in the city and they've never been on a farm ever in their life. They've got no idea about their farming industry. And so you can understand why, there's just become such a disconnect, and that people lose that idea of the challenges that farmers are continuously facing. When at the end of the day, if we don't have the farmers out there doing the big hours to produce food or fibre, the world will come to a big stop pretty quickly within a couple of days. So, farmers are essential for us as a population. So I think we need to help support our farmers a bit more than what we currently are.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking back at your younger self, what's one piece of advice you give on your journey so far?
Piece of advice I would say would be probably drop out of school after year 10, I reckon. That would have been a bit of advice. I stayed through for year 11 and 12 and went down the pathways if I was going to go to university, but I never ended up going to uni. I had mates who dropped out after year 10 and went and got a trade, and it's done them brilliantly. So if I had my time again, I would have loved to have dropped out of school and done an apprenticeship. That would have been hugely beneficial. I'd love to have done that. So could have done that, and probably just would have kept telling myself that I'm on the right path. Just keep doing what you're doing, and don't let outside opinions affect you. I'm pretty good at that now. I don't really let anyone's comments bother me at all. Be it when I was much, much younger. It would definitely bother me, but these days it doesn't. I definitely would have told, if I was told my 11-year-old self, don't let it bother you, mate. You'll be right. Just, you're on the right path. Just keep on soldiering on.
That's bloody awesome. What's something that excites you at the moment?
Something that is exciting me is, I think, the general trend and increasing awareness in the general public towards regen, or for what we do in natural intelligence farming, has been really great. Over the years, the more you start to talk to people who aren't in the industry whatsoever, who just live in the city, the more they're starting to pick up on it, and already have awareness before I've even spoken to them. I remember many years you'd talk to them and they'd have no idea. But these days people go, oh yeah, no, I'm kind of aware about regen, and are trying to do what they can to seek out regen produce or natural intelligence farming produce. So the awareness that's been increasing has been really exciting me lately. So I've been loving that as of late.
That's awesome. I definitely agree with you on that. There's the general awareness, and I think it coincides with a lot of the awareness around the health that's happened, which has probably been one of the benefits of social media, that actually people have become more aware about health and what's actually happening with their food.
And yeah, exactly. The health part is massive. People starting to make that link between the food that they're consuming and their health outcomes. Like, our gut microbiome is hugely determinant on our entire essential health status of us as a human. I mean, even when it comes to things like mental health, a lot of our hormones are developed in our gut lining. So if you're not consuming the right product, it's going to have a huge impact on your internal gut microbiome, which is obviously going to affect your entire health and your mental health as well. And we see how much the population is struggling with mental health these days, and it's kind of no wonder with the food that we've been consuming for the last 80 years and that steady decline health-wise of our population. So, and you can really start to see even a lot of leading medical practitioners joining the dots for the general public, saying, how I've been as a medical practitioner for 30 years and, this is what I've seen, and, connected the dots back to soil health essentially, because our soil microbiome works incredibly similar to our gut microbiome. So if you're supporting soil microbiome, it's going to create a product to enhance your gut microbiome, which creates a healthier and happier population, which is what we all want at the end of the day.
Absolutely, you've nailed it there. That is one of my key messaging that I like to try and tell to people about why I do what I do, is that whole link.
And to see, the awareness in the general public rise amongst that is huge. We have people even, connecting the dots. We have people come up and say to us, that they're being gluten intolerant, but have been able to consume bread made from our wheat for the first time in their life. And they go, and just little things like that, just starting to connect the dots of, like maybe it's some of the other things that are affecting the normal bread that they're eating that they've blamed on gluten, but their just body's having an allergic inflammatory response to the way that other product has been produced.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got a farmer client here who's in the same bowl as his wheat that he's growing is the one that many people are saying that they've been able to eat bread for the first time in 10, 15 years because it doesn't inflame their stomach. So such a cool opportunity, as like you said before, for farmers on this health front to actually be able to make quite some good money. I think as long as we get the practices right and the messaging.
Yeah, 100%. The future is so exciting for where things can go for farmers and for the general public. So I can't wait to see how it all looks when I'm 50 or 60 years older. It's going to be brilliant. And the more we can educate people that they can save money on medicine at one end and spend on just good quality produce on the other, I think it's going to be hugely beneficial.
Yeah, I totally agree. Finally, my last question for you is, what is a force of nature to you?
Force of nature to me, I think just the resilience in the landscape. Obviously, where we are, it's such a dry, brittle environment, like very, very harsh to work in. And sometimes, you do get worried. You're only human. You're like, geez, I'm not sure how these crops or how the pasture's going to pull up this year because it's just straight up not raining, or sometimes it's raining too much, or whatever it might be. But just the resilience that you can have in your landscape once you get everything functioning cohesively is just, it never ceases to amaze me. It's completely remarkable. I mean, we've seen so many times in year on year, the amount of things that we've seen amongst our landscape where you think it's not going to get through, and then yeah, it pulls through and it just blows you what you would have thought you would have got at the end of the day out of the park. It's just remarkable where it might be you get a severe frost and we haven't been affected by the frost. And you just kind of like, whoa, like just even though you kind of know the science behind it and you go that, yeah, that makes sense. But still to see it happen for your own eyes is just remarkable. Or whether you have, like last year, we had an extremely dry start to the season and we looked at some crops like, not sure if they're going to pull through, but the resilience they had to sense the season. And so once we eventually did get some rain, they pulled through and were amazing crops, like some of the best I've ever seen. Or vice versa, dry finish again than we had last year as well. And thinking, this dry finish right when it's filling the grain heads, this is not ideal. But the resilience in the landscape and the subsoil moisture that we had there to pull through that dry finish and maintain quality. It's just been remarkable. And amongst the sheep as well, even on a week where you get continuously 45 degrees for 7 days in a row, their water intake doesn't pick up, and even their average water intake is extremely low. Sometimes you think, like, these bloody sheep drinking, like you check the tank and you're like, shit, it's not really going down much. But just the resilience within the guts of those animals, and they were able to break down the nutrient dense pastures and maintain water from the pastures as well, is mind blowing for us. So I think that's a force of nature for me, just the resilience that our planet has to combat against anything that it kind of really throws at itself is, really quite impressive. And the way that it's kind of evolved itself over billions of years to combat these things, like the fact that there's like chemical detoxifying microbes in our soil system is kind of mind-blowing. They've been around for millions and millions of years. People weren't spraying chemicals, millions of years ago, but it's just developed this so long ago to be able to combat against this and detoxify our landscape is just, quite incredible.
I absolutely agree. It's incredible what this world can actually do if you allow it to do it, instead of trying to fight 100%. It all the time. So I love that we finished on that note. Thank you very much for hopping on today, Matt. It's been awesome to chat to you and hear a bit more about what you do and the family farm.
Awesome. No, thanks very much, Conan. Really appreciate you taking the time and for inviting me on. It's been awesome, and can't wait to see where you keep going in the future, and hopefully we get to catch up in person sometime, whether I'm over in NZ or whether you're over here in Australia.
Definitely, we definitely will.